book that really mattered to me as a reader was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. When I read that book as a kid, it was the book that showed me that reading could be fun. Kind of probably before that, my parents read to me and I enjoyed that, but I hadn't learned the passion of reading a book on my own steam until The Huge Adventure of Narnia sucked me in. I owe Narnia for starting me daydreaming about my own adventure stories and leading me on a path to become a writer. As a writer, the most gratifying thing I can hear is when my book is the gateway to reading for a kid. I get that a fair amount with Fablehaven, sometimes with Candy Shop War, where those books were the book, right, that showed a kid that reading could be fun. And I think that fantasy adventure novels have that potential because the huge adventure of those kind of stories is sometimes what it takes to get a kid to see a book can compete with an entertainment experience like a movie. In my career, I've done over 2,000 school visits at elementary schools around the country, elementary, middle schools, and I find that those events I think those are a big part of why I get kids coming up to me at book signings saying that my book was their gateway book, because I make a pretty strong case for why reading and creating build imagination, and then the book that's in front of them after I make that case is Fablehaven or Candy Shop War or Five Kingdoms or one of my recent books, and I think that helps pique curiosity on some of the kids who are on the fence. Some of the reluctant readers give it a try after the presentation. If you're a teacher and you want to get kids reading for fun, rule number one for me would be to put the kid in front of a fun book. Give them a book that's actually fun to read, that's something that they can handle. That is, to me, one of the most important things, because for me, I know as a reader, a lot of the books I had to read in school were not super fun and were not written in a language that made sense to me or that my ear could identify with. And it was reading books, and that includes Narnia a little bit, right? Like my ear wasn't totally tuned into Narnia, it just loved the imagination. Had Harry Potter existed when I was a little kid, that would have been the book that was my gateway to reading. If you want your kids to discover books, reading with them is a big deal. It creates a reading culture in the home, and it shows them that reading is an activity that they can do for fun. My parents read with me, and if they hadn't done that, I might have never picked up a book. Reading with my kids has been a big deal with helping them be interested in reading books. My oldest took to reading really fast, but my second oldest was kind of a reluctant reader and is still kind of a reluctant reader. We also use audiobooks with my second oldest so that he can get past that kind of sticking point where he can't really understand enough to enjoy it. The audiobook can help kind of bridge that. Okay, if you want to get boys to read, prove to them that it is cool and scary and gross, right? Like show them, like when I read from Fablehaven to schools, I read a 2-paragraph description of a scabby, disgusting witch. Because if you describe a beautiful sunset to a little boy, he's going to roll his eyes. But if you describe a gross witch, he becomes interested. Another way to get boys interested in reading is engage their curiosity. Leave questions unanswered so that they will want to get the answers to those questions. I think most of us read because we're trying to satisfy our curiosity about some story element. And so as we raise issues and leave them unresolved, it can engage the curiosity of kids and make them want to finish the story or try the story. I read way less nonfiction than fiction. For some reason, my head is wired for adventure, and so that's what drives me to read, right? Not that I can't appreciate nonfiction. My second oldest son is an example of a reader who really likes nonfiction. When I read to him, we probably read nonfiction half the time. And so part of the trick for engaging your kids in reading is knowing what they like and putting them in front of it. If you want to try books in different formats, that can sometimes also bridge the gap. Things like Wimpy Kid. There's a certain kind of kid who will read Diary of a Wimpy Kid who won't read a regular novel. Same with graphic novels. You have the illustrations to help pull the reader through the story and hold their interest, especially if the reader is stumbling with if that huge field of words is becoming like a stumbling block for them to get started. A graphic novel makes that a little less scary. Fantasy can be an amazing gateway to literacy because of the huge imagination of the stories involved. You give a kid dragons and danger and peril. You create a scenario where a kid can be a hero, and you will find kids buying in. That's why Harry Potter is the best-selling series in the history of publishing, because a book was written where a young main character went on a big adventure that an adult could also enjoy. And those are the kind of books that I'm trying to read. I'm trying to write for the Harry Potter reader. You know, the same adult, the same kid. I get those kind of people with Fablehaven, with Five Kingdoms, and with Beyonders.